Alright, so here's a collection of retro handhelds that I've gathered throughout the years. The first one here is the one that I got first. It's called an Anbernic 280V. This one I have loaded with some custom firmware. It plays everything up until PlayStation 1, and I mainly use them for, yeah, anything below that, so to say. Retro games, 8, 16-bit suits me just fine. I like to play ROM hacks and translations. I'm just going to shut this one down safely before going any further. Next one here is a bit of a a bit of a joke actually. It's just an standard Famiclone console that you can get for nothing off of AliExpress. But this one's interesting because it's loaded with a chipset that makes you play Microsoft MakeCode arcade games, and this one I made with the tutorial. It's basically just press the A button as many times as you can within 10 seconds. The idea was to make some sort of little game for this single console. Disregard that one. This one I have been very happy with. If I'm not mistaken, it's the Anbernic 351V. I've loaded up some custom buttons from Sakura Retro Modding alongside the sticker around the bezels here, because as you can tell, the theme is kind of old school Game Boy DMG. However, the coloration of these buttons is not exactly as I had hoped they'd be, but I got used to them. This one's also loaded with a custom firmware. I forget the name of that, but I have definitely had a lot of enjoyment from this one, and also just loading it up with games, ROM hacks, translations, etc. Many of these consoles, when you want to shut them down, you have to go in through the main menu here and then actually choose shutdown instead of just holding the power button again. With some of these consoles, that's not the case. You can just like flick them off. This one in particular, I'd feel safer choosing to quit in hopes that I will not corrupt the SD card that's inside of it. I have loaded it with my own, or rather some proper SanDisks. A couple of micro consoles here is the RG Nano, also from Anbernic. This one I've also had a lot of joy out of. I like the fact that you just boot it up and then you could go. It goes straight into the game you last played. That is, if you have turned it off the same way. In this game, this case, it's Pokemon Trading Card Game 2, which is a Japanese only Game Boy Color game. I actually went to Japan just to get this one. They didn't have it in Super Potato. This is an English translation of it. So if I just turn it off the same way I turned it on, that's safe, and it'll go straight into that once you turn it back on. The one next to it is Funky, which is running off of Funky OS, which this one actually also do. It's a pretty neat OS. This game is just The Legend of Zelda. It's a ROM hack called Ancient Dungeon with a graphics patch that's called Chunky Zelda to make it a little more, I don't know if you can tell, chunky looking. I'm probably gonna have to end my run here. It's also cool because it turned on just as I flipped it on, or flipped it up, and it'll turn off when I flip it down, and actually creates a save state before that. So that's also one that's just you can play immediately. Here's one from Powkitty. I put a Sakura retro modding sticker on that one when I got the buttons for the Ambernig over there. It's a clamshell one. I wanted to like this more than I ended up doing. It's also with a Miyu custom firmware. This might be loud. That was pretty loud, yeah. I bought two because they're kind of cheap, and one I gave to my daughter, who probably hasn't played that much on it. Honestly, I really never did either, and I'm having a hard time just navigating through here the menu. Um, I don't remember whether that was this was one where you could just safely shut that down here. I don't think it is. And now I'm in a bit of a pickle here. Oh, I just pressed this one. Fine. It's the emulator menu. You exit GPSP, and then you navigate to quit somehow. How did I do that? I think I can just press this once, and it'll go into suspend sleep mode. We'll just put that away for now. I'll do that off camera. This is an actual Miu Mini, which I was able to get when they had a small restock. So I'm one of the lucky ones. This one has Onion OS with, yeah, some custom backgrounds. Honestly, never played this as much as I wanted to. I feel like I'm repeating myself here. Um, it's cool. It's got a nice screen, and the battery life was also pretty good. Sometimes with these old games, Game Boy Pocket and Game Boy Advance, or Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance, I like to put over in a filter to make it look more smooth. Some games look really great like that. Other games you would perhaps want to keep the the pixel style. Once again, let's see. Middle button here. Oh yeah, you just go back. That's cool. I knew this was a great custom firmware. Yeah, just press the button here. I haven't been messing around with it too much. I suppose it simply got overshadowed by something else that was available for me. Now, how do I turn it off? This is embarrassing. Settings. Yeah, there we go. Shut down. Are you sure? Yes, please. Another one from Powkitty. This one is the trim UI. And I believe I also loaded this with custom firmware. MinUI. I've played a lot on that. Here is recently played Mario Kart updated. It's just a graphics patch and I believe also sound to make the sound like Mario Kart from Nintendo 64. And the graphics are, let's see, we just test with Wario. Yeah, that's the Nintendo 64 Wario. The colors in this ROM hack is a little more dynamic and pop a little more because the original Game Boy Advance screen was always kind of bright because originally it didn't have backlight, so had to make up for that by making the game look bright, and that does not translate very well onto modern devices with backlit screens. So thank God for the community to do what Nintendo don't. I think this is also one you just like pop off like that, which I like. And here we have the newest one that I've recently been playing a lot of. Anbernic RG353V. Right now it's in Android. It's dual booting, so it's also Linux, so it'll also play the same as this one. If I reboot it now, it'll, without taking out the SD card over here, it'll go into that. But right now I have it on Android because I've been playing a lot of Poke MMO on it, grinding for my shinies. It works well with that. Text is a little small. It's not really meant for a screen of this size, but nonetheless it works. Decently, I'd say. Yeah. Right. So, oh, and this got a touchscreen as well, obviously, because it's Android. I say obviously, while it's not really necessarily, because over here we have the Retroid Pocket 2 that is also Android, but that one does not have a touchscreen, so I really never played much on it. In fact, I wanted to load it with some custom firmware, but never got onto that. It's an old variant of Android on this one. It's a nice design though. I do like holding it. I do like pressing the buttons. But booting up first time, it takes a while because it thinks it's an Android. So obviously, going from off to on it takes a minute or two. Right now, it's just in sleep mode. I really haven't done anything with this, but as I said, not having a touchscreen is a little detrimental. Only a little while after I purchased this one, they came out with the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus or something. So that was just poor timing. Well, maybe another Retroid in the future. There we go. This one just rebooted into the custom firmware Linux. I really enjoyed this one. Playing PSP and Pico 8 some ports too. Scumbium. It runs Nintendo 64 fairly well. Playing a lot of Blast Core on it. Nintendo DS as well. There are some games I need to get back into. Anyway, I also prefer to quit this one via shutdown system. But mostly this is in Android and I just tap it once and it'll go into sleep mode and it holds battery fairly well. There's also a couple of controllers over here because, well, let's face it, you already have something that'll play any emulator, which is what I'm using to record this video with right now. Any modern phone can play very well old school games, very, very well. Surprisingly, a lot of newer ones too. These are the two controllers that I frequently use alongside my phone because PokeMMO, I really don't need more than this amount of buttons for that. And for a little more in depth, I use the lights. They're both 8-bit do. This is light, and this is 02. They actually made another variant of the small one here called Micro, which got a couple of extra buttons. I believe USB-C. This one's USB Micro. There are none of these consoles that are, yeah, they're all running on USB-C, I think. What about this one? No, this is USB Micro as well. But that's just a joke console. It really shouldn't be included on this one here. Well, I'm not going to ramble anymore. I hope that gave you a nice little insight. Bye bye.